Manchester City has rounded into form, so to
Four
speak,
players or five
and
players being
are
rested and a fresh 4 or 5 coming in. Not at
somewhat of a
all. So
losing
this
streak.
might just
But two losses back to back, three losses in the last five. I think only one win in the last five. So
viewers and subscribers, welcome back to Beating the Press podcast. I am your host, Rafa. Now, coming up in this evening's podcast, we're going to be reviewing the action which took place in the EPL over the weekend. Aston Villa, are they now title contenders, running away 2-1 winners over Manchester United? And Liverpool getting the better of Spurs, but of course, losing big money striker Isak to a broken leg. Christoph, welcome back to the platform.
good to be back, viewers.
Christoph, let's dive straight into the results over the weekend. Manchester United going down 2-1 to Aston Villa, Christoph. The big question is, are Aston Villa now legitimate title contenders?
I mean, of course, they're going to be considered title contenders given the form and the position in the table, and they are 3 points off the top. 1 point behind City, 3 points behind Arsenal, and they are what, like
10
11
games in a
points,
row, 10 games
not,
in a
not
row as well.
10,
Win
10 wins in
10,
a row. Very
10 wins in a
impressive.
row.
Impressive, as well as being, what is it, like 7 points clear of Chelsea, whom everybody thought, after drawing with Arsenal would challenge for the title, is now struggling. But yeah, people are going to consider them title contenders, but as
So what
we've
about
seen,
you? Do you consider them?
I don't
As
know.
an Arsenal man, are you looking behind you at the possibility of Aston Villa overtaking you?
Um, I'm definitely looking at the possibility of, Arsenal could slip up, right? Because the form has been spotty, as I've said. Manchester City has rounded into form, so to speak, and are getting the results. They look dangerous, but I feel like there's still that soft underbelly there where if you really go for it, you could take points off of them. But it also seems like teams are getting scared as well, so they're a
Yeah, I
little bit
mean
more
that man
reluctant.
Haaland up top, Christoph. I mean, he's been banging in the goal, getting another two versus West Ham over the weekend as well. And I mean, he has to send fear down the spine of defenders at this moment. He is the league's top scorer. And of course, he is a marked man. His reputation precedes him. But yet, defenders are still unable to contain him, Christoph. So fear has to be in the air as it relates to Man City and their top number nine, Haaland. I mean, we see a number of other number nines really failing to flatter. I mean, Sesko in that game versus Aston Villa again, Christoph, getting, I would say, a decent chance and a couple of other half chances, but again, failing to get on the score sheet. But talk to us specifically about that game, though, Christoph. What did you see from Aston Villa and what did you see from Manchester United? Of course, we spoke about Aston Villa and their reputation for scoring outside of the box, and that's how they opened the scoring, Christoph. That man, Morgan Rogers, scoring a sublime goal, cutting off the left hand side onto his right foot
I
and
mean,
curling one into the side netting.
it was from inside the box. It was but it was a low probability goal scoring chance, you would say.
Mm.
But that's what I said. Aston Villa coming into this game, or at the beginning of the season, they had to contend with a lot of low blocks, and how they got around that was, taking those low probability chance shots, and it has paid off for them. As you can see, they've won 10 in a row, and this was an expected result as well. I believe I said Aston Villa would win this game. I don't think United, while they have found the goal scoring touch, there's a lot to be desired at the back at the moment. And Aston Villa scored two really, really good goals. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, and that man Bruno picking up an injury as well. He might be out for a few matches as well. Who will be stepping up? And of course, a number of players out of that Manchester United squad is also after the African Cup of Nations. Christoph Mbumo comes to mind. Diallo, also Mazraoui. So a number of players of African descent are also missing in at the African Cup of Nations.
well,
So
I,
it will be
I
interesting to
think
see what Manchester United comes up with.
I think I've heard that one player, Kobe Mano, is trying to force his way out of the club. I don't know.
Well, I mean, I
Some
believe he
broken
was
promises,
injured for this game, but yeah, one would
but
have thought that he this would have been probably a perfect game for him to come in, but I think he was out with an injury, or so the reports say. But for sure, there is some level of discontent from Meno. Of course, he's a young budding talent who obviously need game time in order to develop. So a possible loan may suit him, Christopher. A loan to a lower half team where he can get some quality game time under his belt could do him a world of good, in all honesty.
um, maybe I don't know. A lot of these relationships, and oh, you would say, Manchester United has found it very difficult to sort of permanently offload players. They try to offload Rashford, for instance, only for him to kind of go out on a loan. And we're hearing that Barcelona has a buy clause if they want, but I think I heard that they are choosing that they won't be exercising the clause for whatever reason. Um,
Well,
but
I don't
it
think it that reason won't be from a lack of playing. I mean, I would say this has been a rather successful loan spell for Rashford, in all honesty. He has
but
definitely made an imprint over there at Barcelona.
the thing is, all the Man United players that have gone out on loan have been successful loans.
Yeah, and of course they came up against one of their former players, Lindelof Christoph, really locking it up for Aston Villa in that centre back position as well. And I mean, he had a tremendous game versus his former team. So it seems as if the trend continues where Manchester United loan or sell players, and that is almost like you release the shackle. That's the time they shine. But one player I haven't seen shining is Sancho, Christoph. What's going on with Sancho? I mean, he's
Ah,
a Aston Villa player. What's the latest on Sancho? This was a big transfer, Christoph. This was a transfer that was touted for many months. Big build up, big money being spent to bring him back to Manchester United. And I mean, he has definitely not lived up to expectation. It has been a downhill spiral ever since that move from Bayern Munich to Manchester United under
from
Ten Hag, I
Dortmund.
believe.
From
Right, from
Dortmund.
Dortmund, right.
Um, I, I think it's a combination of factors for Sancho. I think one, it's I speak about it before with Manchester United. They bring these players in and they have them on really, really high salaries. So there's no onus or there's no real reason to perform. You're on
But
a £250,000 a week. You have a 5-year
but
contract.
but but in the case of
What is
Sancho
your
though,
incentive?
Christoph,
Oh,
in the
hold
case
on,
of
no, hold on. Like I said, it's a combination of factors. So as well as on a salary of 250,000, a week, 5 year, they can't sell you, first of all, because nobody's going to take that salary off their hands. The second thing is it might be he's not built for this league, right? The league is
no,
too
but
tough for him, whether that be physically or whatever. Also, I think maybe he might be a system player. So
But the
I
question
think there are
is, the
three
question is
things.
though, the question I was about to ask, if you're not going to pay him big money, why would
Mhm.
he sign for you based on the context? At the time when Manchester United signed him from Dortmund,
Right.
he was one of the top players you could say globally. His signature was coveted. And I'm sure there may have been other clubs after his signature, in all honesty. So in order for Manchester United to get his signing, Christoph, they had to offer him big salary. They had to dangle the money in front of him in order to sign him. But I can definitely see the negative side of that, as you mentioned. You get the big paycheck, so that motivation, that hunger may be lacking. But I'm not sure what's the case with Sancho, in all honesty. I mean, similar situation when he went on loan to Chelsea as well. And now we're also seeing a similar scenario unfolding, him on loan at Aston Villa, I believe. So
And
that's
when
an
when
interesting story to look at.
when he went on loan to Dortmund, he performed, better than he was performing on those other loans and better than he did at Manchester United. I think Dortmund wanted to bring him back, but the salary and the asking price were not in agreement. So The player
Interesting.
the player either needs to drop those salary demands or waste his time and run down the contract and then you get to leave for free, go where you want, and you
Well,
still get
true.
all
I
that
mean,
money.
we see
But
Sterling doing that over there at Chelsea.
yeah, but the difference is Sterling has trophies, titles, or whatever. You know, I don't know if Sancho is playing for money or he's playing to win. I mean, you can play for both, but he hasn't won anything. So
It has
when
to be the money then. I mean,
when I feel like obviously it's still your job and you're playing for money, but
right?
when you are younger, obviously I think you would be more playing for the accolades
Or the love of the game.
are the love of the game. And then as you are progressing your career, you get the bigger and bigger money or whatever. So
Well, probably the money came too early for him, as you pointed out earlier. Big salaries. Maybe I don't know. Hard to say, but you make some interesting points, as you say. Could possibly be a system player where the system at Manchester United was not suited for his skill set. I mean, he reminds me somewhat of a Ozil, Christoph. I mean, he's not blessed with any tremendous space, but he's a touch player. He can glide across the field, has some decent passes in his foot. And he can pop up with a goal here or there, but that lack of consistency, I'm not sure if the Ozil type players
no,
can
I think you
survive in this modern football, in all
I
honesty.
I think you have disrespected Mesut Ozil. Jadon Sancho has come nowhere near the
No,
level of what
I'm
Ozil
not
played.
talking about the creativity side. I'm talking about the defensive side of the ball. Not necessarily the creativity and the goal scoring attributes which Ozil
The
has, but
defensive and the work rate.
correct, correct. It's almost like those players are now passengers in teams, Christoph.
I
From
if
on the
you
defensive side.
if you're going to have a player like that in your team, the tactic must be built around that
Right,
player
that's what I'm
for
saying.
me.
That's exactly what I'm saying. That if you don't have that outstanding skill set like a Ozil had, that vision and that almost like that Google map type finding precise pass, can pick a pass from anywhere and get your striker in and goal, create a chance out of nothing, then that player is going to be a passenger. And I think that is what is probably happening to Sancho, where you're not going to necessarily build your team around him. So how does he now fit into an already existing system without being a defensive liability? And I think that is the issue. I think coaches are choosing other players who may not be as good offensively, but offer greater solidarity on the defensive side,
Right.
where
In England because of how the intensity and how much pressing and high pressing that teams play. A player who is not going to do that is unless they are, extremely talented or they are contributing massively. In this case, it's usually attacking players, obviously.
right,
Unless
right.
they are contributing lots of assists or lots of goals, then they're not going to get any game time.
Yeah, and I think we're seeing that over there at Liverpool when it comes to Salah, to be honest with you. Because Salah was scoring at such a prolific rate, his defensive liabilities were somewhat covered. But now, with Liverpool not firing on all cylinders and Salah himself out of form, then those liabilities get shown up more. So that is something to definitely keep an eye on. But speaking of Liverpool, Christoph, Liverpool popping up with a win versus Spurs. And as you said, Spurs almost being Spursy. You could say, Romero, their captain, picking up two reckless yellow card leading to a red. And at a point in the game when Spurs were probably pushing for an equalizer, he was sent off and Liverpool collected 3 points, but not at the expense of losing one of their top strikers. Isak scored the goal, which gave Liverpool the lead, but in so doing, picked up what I'm hearing is a fractured leg, Christoph.
I
Had to
mean,
do surgery and now he'll be out for months.
I mean, at the expense of an expensive player, but I don't know about top striker. Isak has what? One goal, two goal or something like that. And
I
so
mean, he did come up with a big goal in this one. He probably gave Liverpool the 3 points, but as I said, it came at the expense of that big injury. So he'll be out for months, but I'm not sure if Liverpool have enough cover up front at this point, though, Christoph. They may be short on bodies. Maybe, Christoph. maybe Chiesa finally gets a start.
I mean, maybe honestly, when Salah was dropped, I thought maybe they would have put Chiesa over there, but they went with Soboslai, which
And Sobasai has continued in that position as well. I am not sure what the coach has against Chiesa. I am not sure. I mean, if you can't get into this Liverpool team, no, might as well you just pack your bags, to be honest with you, because you're not gonna get in. If Salah is out, Isak is out, Gagpo is out, so pretty much your first choice front three or four is pretty much out, and you're playing Soberslide out of position, you could say, in that right wing position when you have a fairly decent, at least from my estimation. But maybe the manager is seeing something else in training. But it's fascinating that Chiesa comes on as a sub, but can't get a start, Christoph. It's fascinating, to be honest. What could be the reason for that?
I honestly sometimes a player is probably better suited as as a substitute than a starter. Not that they couldn't be a starter, but their skill set that they possess, the manager might say, all right, I would prefer to have this in the second half versus starting the game. I think they would be ineffectual. Kind of like what I said with Martinelli. Given how Arsenal play right now, I don't think he's a starter. Not because he's bad, but because his best attributes are better used when there's space, and there's more space in the second half when teams are tired and trying to chase games and so on. So not that he's a bad player, I just don't think the system right now allows him to be a regular starter, to be effective as a starter. I think it might be the same thing with Chiesa, where the manager sees him as being more effective coming off the bench against tired legs.
This is a fascinating one. I'll be definitely keeping an eye on that. But in my estimation, the coach doesn't rate him, Christoph. That's my call on that one. He's not rated by
I
the
mean,
coach,
he has come up with a number of key goals for
which is
Liverpool
why I'm
this.
saying why he can't get a start. I mean, these key goals has to be rewarded, and it's not as if you have an abundance of players to play those forward positions. Right now, as I said, you're playing a midfielder in a winger role. You know, you have Sobosai playing right wing when Sobosai is definitely a central midfield player. You know, that's a spot that Chiesa should be occupying. And we also see Frimpong coming on and who may possibly be ahead of him in the pecking order as well.
So
So
I
it's
mean, when you see like a manager play a winger up, sorry, a midfielder out in the wide area, it's one of two things. Like you said, it's either they don't trust the other players who could play that position, or it is for a tactical reason where he feels he gets more possession or more cover on that, on in this case on the right hand side by having a midfielder there versus having a winger. He gets more control.
Oh well, possibility, possibility. But as a player, if I was KS, I would be feeling very downhearted, downtrodden, wondering what is it I need to do to get into this team, in all honesty, Christoph. So I will definitely be keeping an eye on that. But Liverpool picking up 3 points, which is a good 3 points for them. I mean, having taken a 2-0 lead in that game, again, defensive fragility is being shown up, allowing Spurs back into it, and it was all hands on deck versus Spurs, and eventually what? I think they went down to nine.
Yeah, they went down to
Yeah,
9 men
right. Yeah, they went down to 9 men. Simmons being sent off
in the
in
first
the
half.
first half, right?
And
For
then Romero getting a second yellow and getting sent off. I
right,
mean,
right, right. So it would have been rather disappointed if Liverpool didn't leave this one with 3 points versus
honestly,
nine
they
men.
honestly they almost got another red card. To be honest, players were I, I I
Spurs being
really
Spursy.
don't understand them. Like you've already gone a man down, right? Common sense would dictate. We need to stay focused, stay calm, not do anything reckless or I don't
Mm,
understand. Yeah, Spurs being Spurs, like I said, it's a game that they should have won, and
they end up losing
true,
and
true,
have lost. And there may be further repercussions down the line because now you have two players who
suspended
correct
our starters.
correct. So again, now you have difficulties for the next game, And of course, we know it's the festive period where the games are coming thick and fast. We have the Boxing Day fixtures, and then right around the corner, we have the New Year's Day fixtures as well. So squads may be rotated, but again, you hear managers complaining, Christoph, but I put it to you, most teams will not be doing any big rotations. Maybe a player in and out here or there, but nothing major, no big overhaul, not four players or five players being rested and a fresh four or five coming in. Not at all. So these managers will complain, but at the end of the day, they're still gonna put their best players out there. I'm hearing Pep telling his players not to come back overweight after the Christmas break. You know, if you're 3 kilos over, then you won't play. Is the message from Pep. So that's a fascinating one, you know. So Pep is saying, hey, eat and enjoy yourself over the Christmas, but ensure you don't overdo it because there's a big game, I think, versus is it Nottingham Forest, I think, on the Boxing Day, which is the day after Christmas, you know.
If I
And
am correct, that is, there's only one game being played on Boxing Day this year. I think that's the
oh,
only match being played.
I'm not sure. I'm definitely have to look at the fixture. What does the fixture list say though?
Oh, Boxing Day, yeah, one match. Manchester United versus Newcastle. Only one game being played on that day.
Okay. Right,
Rest
right,
of the
right.
fixtures are playing on Saturday, two on Sunday. Yeah,
Oh, but doesn't Arsenal have a cup game as well, though, Christoph?
Arsenal have a cup game tomorrow, I believe, against Crystal Palace.
Correct, correct. So I mean, for Arsenal, you could say it's probably a little cluttered schedule, so to speak, Christoph. But as per usual, I think for the cup, managers would rotate their team anyway for the cup, which is what I expect Arsenal to do,
I,
and then
I,
put
I
their best
think
11 out in the
I
in
think
the
I
EPL.
I think Arsenal will rotate for the cup. I don't know that Crystal Palace will rotate, given that they're kind of on a somewhat of a losing streak. Back two losses back to back, three losses in the last five. I think only one win in the last five. So I think Crystal Palace will go for it and will play with their full squad, their first choice team. I think Arsenal will. I don't think Arsenal will fully rotate because Arteta probably is expecting Crystal Palace to use their first team, and um, obviously silverware, so you want to stay in the competition as long as you can.
Oh, for sure, definitely. But speaking
So
of Arsenal, Christoph, speaking of Arsenal, we saw Arsenal play Everton. What was your take on that game? Arsenal running away, what, 1-0 winners?
1-0, right? Um, it wasn't a great performance by either team. I did feel Arsenal was significantly better than Everton. I don't believe Everton created anything in that match. Arsenal, however, were unfortunate to have hit the post, I think, three times. But I think in attack currently, they're too slow to transition, make the passes. You're holding on to the ball too long before releasing a player to make a run. I think that is currently holding them back at the moment in terms of attacking wise. They need to speed up the attack if they want to get back into form and get more goals. The attack needs to be sped up.
Yeah, indeed. And we saw Saka giving a penalty to Gokieres, Christoph, to help boost his confidence.
No, it wasn't Saka giving the penalty. The captain took the penalty and handed it to.
But Gokieres isn't Arsenal first, second, or probably he's third in the pecking order.
No, he's not. He's not third.
Yeah, but it's usually Saka or Odegaard as one
No,
or
no.
two.
When Odegaard missed that penalty, I think last season. Since then, he seems to have refused to take penalty. Right,
Relinquish the
relinquished it.
responsibility.
Right, he missed one penalty, I think, last
But so
season.
first choice is Saka then.
First
So why
choice
did,
is Saka,
so
but
why wasn't Saka the man who stepped up?
I feel like it was a similar situation to where, when Arsenal had given Kai Havertz a
Yeah, that's what I'm
penalty
saying.
and,
It's a
and it went.
confidence booster.
Right, you give him a confidence boost, and then Havertz went on to
Ah,
score a
come
lot
on,
of
man.
goals for the
The,
following two
the
seasons.
big striker who scored 72 goals last year.
Right.
Come on, man. It just goes to show how far a man of Gokier's caliber has really fallen down in terms of form. and
No.
goal scoring prowess. I mean, come on.
False, false.
It's a sympathy penalty, Christoph. Come on. Call a spade a spade. It's a sympathy penalty.
Even if you say it's a sympathy penalty, I don't
Wouldn't you
think
agree?
I don't. Who has been the best striker in the league so far?
Erling Haaland and Ekitike leads
Uh,
the way. Voltemad.
Ekitike has how many goals?
What? I think he's second to Haaland. Maybe what? 8, 9? Yeah, he's second in the golden boot race.
Ekitike has eight
Or
goals.
non-penalty goals, I should say.
Ekitike
Non-penalty goals.
Ekitike has 8 goals. Victor
Right.
Gyökeres has 7 goals. So
No, in the EPL,
y-
Gokieres has 7 goals in the EPL.
yeah,
Hmm? No, man, check that stats. Check back that statistic. Check
Uh,
back that statistics. He has, I think, 4 or 5 goals now. Maybe 7 in all competition, but in the EPL, certainly he hasn't passed 5, in my opinion, based on the last statistics I saw. So check that facts. Facts check that one for us there, Christoph. But
no problem.
Ekitike has the most goals next to Haaland in terms of non-penalty goals, you know. But yeah, Erling Haaland definitely is the way. I mean, Igor, Thiago as well over there at Brentford was lighting up the EPL a couple weeks ago also. So he is kicking them in. So I mean, I think those are the top 3 strikers in the league currently. I mean, when you look at other big name signings who have failed, Sesko over there at Manchester United as well really has not
Isak,
hit the ground running.
£150 million striker,
Isak as
struggling.
well, and now out injured for several months. So, you know, the new strikers who have been brought into the league have definitely not been prolific by all measure. Even Ollie Watkins, even though Aston Villa is doing so well, Watkins hasn't really been amongst the goal this season. It's quite fascinating that Watkins is struggling for form as well, even though his team, Aston Villa, is sitting so high up in the table. So that is something to definitely keep an eye on. I mean, each year that goes by for Watkins, his resale value becomes less and less.
I think
And
in the case of Ollie Watkins, it kind of goes back to what I said, where Aston Villa facing a lot of low blocks, and Watkins was more of a penalty box striker. Given that they're taking more of their chances from outside the area or more low percentage conversion chances, then I think that's where Watkins kind of falls down.
I don't think I don't think Watkins' lack of goals is as a result of lack of chances because even in this game versus Manchester United, he got you one goal but tried to chop back on his right and was, when he could have probably taken on the strike on the left, but maybe it's a lack of confidence we're seeing playing out when Ollie Watkins on the top of his game would have hit that one with the left foot and not tried to chop back onto the right. By the time he did that, he was closed down by retreating Manchester United defenders, but interesting times for sure. But in the striking department, did you finalize that statistics for Gokires?
Yeah, yeah. So Hugo Ekitike has what 8 goals in the EPL. Gyökeres has 5 goals in the EPL.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, that
And
that that
he was
that's
on 4 before this sympathy penalty.
that's fine. But if you
Ah,
recall, Ekitike has played more games than
well,
Gyökeres.
true. Plus, Eketike hasn't taken any penalties either, is the point I'm making, Christoph.
Isn't Salah the penalty taker?
Right, yeah. Salah and probably Soboslai is ahead of him in that pecking order as well. So, we'll see, we'll see. But we move, Christoph. Some other interesting games were on display as well.
I think the
Uh
only other interesting
Chelsea.
game was was Leeds beating Crystal Palace 4-1. Shocking result.
Yeah, I mean, Crystal Palace is usually defensively sound, so for a team to get 4 past them, it must have been a horror show. And possibly we're seeing Crystal Palace now balancing out. Uh, they lost Eze, a couple other attackers maybe out injured, and started off well from a defensive point
Uh,
of view. Possibly
Crystal did Crystal Palace lose any players to AFCON?
that is an interesting question as well. I believe Sar may have gone after Afghan, who is one of their more attacking players as well. So he may have gone off and he may be a big miss over the next couple of match weeks. So that is definitely something to keep an eye on. The impact of these departures to the African Cup of Nations and what effect they will have on their team. So, for example, Sunderland, Christoph, Sunderland has a lot of players, but they, as I mentioned in the preview show, that defensive solidarity is now in that Sunderland's team DNA. So anyone you plug into that system is gonna follow suit in terms of the philosophy of that club. And they held on for a nil-nil draw with Brighton away from home. So we may see the effects, but I think we'll definitely still see the Sunderland we have come to know, where they are a solid defensive team and they try to hurt you on the counter and by maximizing set plays, throw-ins, corners, free kicks, etc. So, the effect of losing those Afghan players may not be as detrimental to them as one would think. But Chelsea was another interesting game, Christoph. Chelsea, let's talk about Chelsea in terms of their result versus Newcastle. That was probably the match of the weekend, Crystal. 2-2, Newcastle going up and Chelsea coming back. Talk to us about that game. We have, as I mentioned in the preview show, Christoph, Newcastle was all over Chelsea, like white and rice in that first half. And getting two goals from that big German, who it could have been easily a hat trick for him in the first half as well. He missed probably the easiest of those three chances. And then come second half, Chelsea stormed back and that game ended in a 2-2 draw. Talk to us about that game, Christoph. What did you see from either team?
Um, so kind of like what we said in the preview show is that it's very not that I think that his size was a factor in the goals. It's very hard at the moment to defend against Nick Voltamade. I'm not sure that was the case here, but it was more of a Newcastle mauling them in the first half. It was like just all Newcastle. They went to kill. They went to get the win, and that's what happened. I think for Eddie Howe, there should be a lot of concern as to how you kind of allowed Chelsea back into it. Obviously, a really good free kick from a Reece James. You can't really do much about it other than if the keeper was over. More save it, can't do anything about that. But then, to kind of allow them back into the game is this probably a bit disheartening for Newcastle and definitely something that the manager probably needs to look into and analyze. What happened? How did Chelsea get back into this game? There was a lot of space left in behind the defense because obviously Newcastle saw themselves as the better team and was on the ascendancy. So they committed a lot of players forward. João Pedro, ball over the top, goal.
Right, yeah, that was definitely a defensive error there. I thought the defender was trying to get too tight. Who drove Pedro for probably no apparent reason. Didn't necessarily need to be so tight. It was a ball which he had to take down, turn, beat you, but the defender came in too tight, lost his footing, and Joe Pedro slipped him one-on-one with the keeper, and Joe Pedro made no mistake, and that was 2-2. And at that point, it could have gone either way. Both teams came up with big chances, but none failed to take and find a winner. But yeah, as you said, very disheartening. This very good display from Newcastle in the first half, which is what I had spoken to you about, Christoph, because I've seen this version of Newcastle on at least three, four, five occasions now, especially when they play at home. They really have that energy and that passion for pressing. When I saw them versus Chelsea, it's almost as if I was looking at a Liverpool club team when Liverpool was at the top of their game, Christoph. They didn't allow teams out of their half. And so was the case in that first half with Newcastle all over Chelsea like a rush. But then halftime came, and we often know that for whatever reason, I'm not sure what was said in the locker room or what tactical changes were made. It was a completely different game come the second half. And it was Chelsea who came up with the goals in that half. And that game ended up 1-1. So, yeah, Newcastle fans would have probably left the stadium the more disappointed of the two set of fans Chelsea would have left feeling as if they came back in that game and would have left with greater positivity, having been 2 goals down. But Newcastle did one of the jobs, which was to stop Cole Palmer, Christoph. So they executed in that regard, but just could not get their foot over the finish line. So the points were shared in that situation. And at this point, Christoph, Eddie Howe probably has to now start looking over his shoulder. Or does he have nothing to fear at this point in time? Does he have credit in the bank over there at Newcastle?
I think it depends on the Newcastle owners, not necessarily on the fans. I think it depends what they want. Anyhow, they got into the Champions League last season. Dubiously, might I add, they got into the Champions League, but they're playing Champions League nonetheless. They got the Champions League money. But right now they're in 11th. They have what 23 points and have won 6. We're almost at that halfway point in the season. They have not won half of the games that they've played. So, was at the beginning of the season was a requirement to make the Champions League again. In that regard, Newcastle currently is going to feel that at the moment. I mean, anything can happen second half of the season, but at
Right,
the
right.
moment, Newcastle are going to feel that.
Yeah, I
So
don't see them finishing in the
if
top four either.
if if the target for the beginning of the season was to retain a Champions League spot, then Eddie Howe would probably be out of a job at the end of the season.
Mm.
They have not
Indeed.
won. They have not. Obviously, you don't expect Newcastle to win every single game for the season.
Right, right.
No team is going to win every single game, but they have not won even half of their games, and they are sitting in the bottom half of the table. They're doing well against the big teams, right? But they aren't necessarily collecting all the points that they should be collecting from the play that we've seen from them, right?
Indeed.
So at the moment, I think Eddie Howe is still a good manager. I think it depends on the ambition of the owner, but you might have some sympathy for Eddie Howe in that he lost his best player in Isak over the summer, and that might not have been in the plans. So it could be one of the reasons for some of not being able to get over the line in some of these games.
Definitely an interesting perspective there. But there you have it, viewers and subscribers. We've come to the end of yet another podcast, our last podcast before Christmas. So let me take this opportunity to wish all the viewers and subscribers a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year when it comes. Same to you, Christoph. A Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Our last podcast before the Christmas. And of course, viewers, the Christmas gift I asked for. I am yet to receive. We are yet to cross the threshold of 500 subscribers. We're right there. We're at what? 496. So who will be those supportive four who will push us over that threshold of getting us to 500 subscribers by Christmas? Do the right thing, viewers, subscribers. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and of course, leave your comments in the comment section. But it has been a pleasure bringing the podcast to you. Merry Christmas when it comes and a Happy New Year. But until next time, this is Rafa signing off.